Now we are.
Now we are. Welcome, everybody, to the March 22nd, 2023 City Council meeting. We're going to call it to order at 7 o'clock. First thing we'll do here is call roll. Council Position 1, Joe Armand.
I am here.
Council Position 2, David Budrus.
I am present.
Council Position 3, Stephen Hardy.
Present.
Council Position 4, Chris Moritz.
Here.
And Position 5, Levi Shank. I don't know if anybody's talked to him. I have not. Yeah, we're going to say not present at the moment. Next thing on our agenda is to, pardon me? I think?
That wasn't for you.
Is to recognize our visitors tonight. Please speak your name clearly if you'd like to get on the record.
Anthony with MKB Lawn Care.
Welcome, Anthony. No? Okay.
Denise Halling.
Mike Freeze
Mike Freeze.
and Virginia Freeze.
And
Real
Virginia.
quiet for
Thank
some
you.
reason.
Larry Spencer.
And your name again?
Larry Spencer.
Larry Spencer. Thank you, Larry. Welcome.
Greg Gilmore.
And Greg Gilmore. Very good. Welcome, everybody.
Are you done?
Any additions to the agenda tonight?
I guess I'll try again for that technology update I was gonna give last time, but
Okay.
it's not
If
essential.
we get there
If
and
we
it's-
get there, I'm not encouraged so far.
Steve, and a tech update. Very good. Nothing more from the council? Okay, moving right on. First thing on the list tonight is our cemetery and lawn issues. And I got a call from an individual today who had introduced himself, Anthony, who is the owner of MKB. And he gave out this last and final bid for our services. And did you all get that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yep.
Do any of you have any questions for Anthony? No?
I'll just wait and see if I. So this is, obviously a lot less than the last one we looked
So,
at. I was gonna ask what the differences are.
me and Jess talked, to get it back, to keep doing it, I did a 4% increase, but you guys have to sign a 4-year,
A decrease, I think you meant, Anthony.
or, no, 4% increase because I just redid it from
Okay.
last year to this year. I did 4% from last year.
Okay.
And then I never had a spring cleanup in there, so I had to add a spring cleanup because it wasn't getting the branches and everything getting our way. So we'll just go through the whole cemetery, pick everything up and haul it away. And then 4-year contract goes up 3% each year.
Now, it's my understanding that we still have one more payment that we
Yes.
owe you for last contract. Is that true? And we have a spring cleanup coming, or whatever you
I
want to
never
call it?
charged you guys for one.
Pardon me?
Never charged you one, so if you guys sign this one, I'll do a spring cleanup.
Okay?
That'll get rid of all the branches, pick up everything that fell through the winter. Because normally we would put them on the road,
I
but
know. Last year, we didn't even do a fall because obviously the snow came.
yeah. Well, we got, how many trucks? 3?
Yeah.
We got 3 truckloads out of it before the snow came.
Okay?
But I don't have the dump here anymore, so, because we were dumping it at the dump here and I was expecting you guys to haul it.
Yeah.
Now I gotta take it all the way past Davenport to get rid of it.
Okay, this doesn't require any council action. If anybody wishes to bring anything up, now's the time, obviously.
When you say it doesn't require any council action, it's,
Well, if you wish to, if there's something you'd like to make a motion about
Yeah.
this,
have we got to the point of commitment on the alternatives we were looking into? And that might be for David and Jess.
commitment as far as,
Have we
have we
Signed
purchased a
any-
lawnmower? No, we have not.
or entered into the lease agreement?
No, we have not.
Okay.
And as of today, we have one person who signed up for the job. Actually filled out an app.
Oh, okay.
So we have one app on file.
Excuse me, is that mine?
No, it's not.
Should I?
You'll have a time when you,
Okay.
okay? The apps are here.
I thought I was already in on.
No,
one day.
you had given me a brief piece of paper, and we did not sign an app that
Okay.
day. But yes, apps are here, and you can have one anytime.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's still open.
Great, good.
For some reason, it's not coming up.
Let me see if I can find it.
Maybe it is.
In fact, you can have that before you leave tonight, Greg.
Excuse me.
You can have that before you leave tonight.
Excellent. Thank you.
No, it's not going anywhere, because this email doesn't sit right.
Levi Shank is calling. Has anybody got, I don't have the phone. I'm not going to talk to this all night.
I'll call him.
He's still trying to call me Joe.
Hang up on him.
Okay. He has been duly hung up on.
Sorry, so what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure I'm comparing this to the previous one, so I have it in my head, exactly the differences here.
Have you looked at?
Hello?
Levi, are you trying to call in?
Yep.
Okay, you're on my phone. Jess's is otherwise indisposed.
Okay.
Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so just to make sure that I'm clear then, what I heard is that relative to the last one, it's a spring cleanup is the change, and then it is a 4% increase off of last year.
Yep.
And a guaranteed 3% per year for the next 4 years.
Yep.
Okay. And the amount on that again was?
You know, stuff keeps getting cheaper, if stuff goes down, it gets cheaper, and then I can work with something, but I don't see that happening.
No. I move we accept the bid from MKB Lawn Care, quote number 17.
Oh, we've got a motion on the floor to accept
I
this
believe
bid.
that's the only ID
Is there
number.
a second?
I second.
I'll say,
Beat you, Levi.
I'm fine
Levi
with
second,
that.
okay. Discussion.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
What is this as far as the difference between this bid and the last one as far as dollars? I did not see a comparison.
So this one is 12 monthly payments of $3,047.86. and then there's tax on top of that. So in total, it's $3,291.69. And then the previous one, and I don't know if this included tax in this amount or not, but the previous one was $4,141.40.
Okay, and what were we paying last year?
$3,058.
That was like 34.51.
It's $3,058,
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
it?
like 3,058.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
like
right.
$200.
And that was with tax included, right?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's all I needed to know.
I guess I would just say in discussion, I can only speak for my own votes, but I wasn't trying, my vote was never meant to try and play hardball. We've got budgets, you've got budgets.
No, and I understand that. That's why I'm here.
I appreciate what this represents, so thank you for that.
Further discussion? Well, I guess we'll take a vote on this. All in favor of the motion to accept this contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
the same?
I'll abstain, for the record.
And I'll abstain for the record also.
And did I hear
Yeah.
that was an aye?
Levi gave an aye.
So we have 3 ayes and 2 abstentions.
Right.
302.
So the motion passes 302. All right. I think we don't need to talk about lawnmowers or anything else then tonight.
See me
Okay,
later.
Anthony?
There you go. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.
See you on the grass. Yeah.
When do you
I'll talk to you soon.
When do you start?
Hopefully we're gonna get in here and get all the branches and stuff picked up now that it's passed, so.
Shouldn't be a lot of branches Troy's up there picking up and burning yesterday.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, so.
No, we'll be hitting it here pretty soon. I'm hoping April we'll probably get up there and suck up all the leaves and.
It's supposed to snow on Friday.
We're not talking now.
I know.
You gotta say swear words, don't you?
Okay,
Thank you. Excited.
you betcha.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks,
Have a great night.
Have a good night. Next on the agenda, it doesn't say mobile home park, but that's what we're going to talk about. Is there anything the council has they want to bring up before we let a gentleman speak here and have the floor?
Did you get a chance to review and read the ordinance that was done? I think you were given, or somebody was trying to get a copy of it to you from September '94.
That's what we got there.
Okay, so you did get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've had both of them. One I gave you last week
That's
and
right.
one I gave you this week. Okay?
Did we discover a trailer park or not?
No, I got a question for you, Mike.
Okay.
Earlier, last week or whatever, we talked about this. Do you recall a time frame that it was discussed with council of being a park?
About what?
That it being sanctioned a mobile home park or RV park? Well, they kind of go together in our stuff, but
I don't remember sitting on a council and having I don't recall the discussion. It was just me and the mayor and just have at her. But there was a lot of activity prior to that. Because they were trying to sue me and this mobile home that came into town unannounced and
do you remember those, a ballpark, within a year or two?
it was
okay. It would
about
have
17
been-
years ago.
Yeah, 18. About
18 years ago.
Because I think it was the fall time,
It was after 2000.
and it was before Blaine got married.
Well, there should be
so-
some kind of activity there, you
Well,
know.
Yeah.
I probably went through the minutes from 2000 to 2005, and the only mobile home park or anything RV related was referenced to Block 80 up here, you know, country club, golf course, it went by several different names.
Right.
That, but I never saw any reference to you folks, and there has to be something. That's why I was kind of trying to nail it down
Right,
on time.
because that, I mean, it all happened, you know, I mean, it's
Well, I
real.
think there
We
was
can
a
go down
meeting.
there and look at the mobile home park if that's,
Well, Mike came to the meeting, I had to work. And Mike's having a hard time remembering that he was here for that. But then that was when it was presented that, was it a mobile home park? And then there was, basically just between the mayor and Mike, that, because he said he called the lawyer, Paul, meaning Paul
Right.
Dillon, that he called the lawyer and they worked it out that it was a mobile home park.
they found
years
that on
ago.
the records from before
You know, like when
us.
Tollinson's trailer was there. and
We
things like
we didn't
that.
start the mobile home park.
Right,
It was started
years
way,
before.
way back before that, and they found that it was a mobile home.
Well, okay, that kind of leads me on to my next question. What's the advantages you have a whole city block there, I mean, you have a lot of area, you know, we know that. What's the difference, what advantage do you have by calling it a mobile home park versus just building on lots that are there?
There's a pretty big difference, because there's a lot of differences between mobile home parks and private sets.
Would it be like,
And
you get more
this-
leniency with the mobile home park for?
And Larry can straighten us out on that, without a doubt.
Just some of the issues, to answer your question, there's some of the issues on a manufactured mobile home park is they're not constrained by the 5-year rule. I believe there's a 5-year rule for the city, nothing can be more than 5 years old and be brought in for manufactured homes. A manufactured home is geared towards affordable housing. It's not geared towards, you know, the same types of standards that you would see in other areas. For instance, residential areas that are, you know, developed, you know, with more conformity towards conventional building, where you have more space, you have a different type of foundation, which adds significantly to the cost. On an individual lot, for example, you would have to do what's called a pit set, which is a frost. You know, typically those are done by digging a 1.5 foot hole and then putting a poured in place concrete and then backfilling it behind treated wood or concrete blocks around the outside. That adds about $10,000 to the price tag, and it doesn't really, other than aesthetics, it doesn't provide a real meaningful advantage to a manufactured home. And I'll get to that in part of my presentation, but part of that is because manufactured homes are, I'll just address it now, I guess. So manufactured homes are built very differently than site-built homes with regard to how they're designed to be put on the ground. And it's certainly agreeable that everybody would like to have all structures have no issue with, you know, any kind of frost, heat type issues. But manufactured homes are actually designed to accommodate that. For instance, if you're going to build a site-built home and you're going to pour in place concrete foundation, it would be very bad idea to pour that on top of the ground. I mean, it costs very little extra when you're pouring that already to go ahead and dig down, get your frost protection, etc. A site-built home can't really be re-leveled if it becomes out of adjustment, whereas a manufactured home, for about $700, you can go through and, you know, if the ground settles a little bit or frost issues have moved things around, it costs about $700 and typically lasts 10 to 20 years, depending on what kind of soil there is underneath it, etc. You know, if it's on clay, it's kind of hard. If it's on rock, it's pretty easy. So, what I was getting to is that the manufactured home parks don't require, even by your ordinances here on the manufactured home, it talks about a stand. I would call that they mean a pad by that, which is basically a pad that you sit it on. It also addresses skirting, and you have skirting on what we call a park set home, which is a home that is set on blocks. Now, it's all governed by Washington State Labor and Industries Manufactured Home Installers code. Specifies all the blocking requirements when there's not manufacturer's instructions still. But it doesn't require, by Washington State, it doesn't require any home. It's up to the cities and counties if they want to require a home to be pit set. But none of the homes, I've moved probably 200 homes in the 25 years I've been doing this. I've moved probably 200 mobile homes into or out of parks in Washington State. I have never come across a city or county park that the city or county required frost protection pit set type. You know, they're all set on top, unless the park wanted to do something and make it, you know, they were bringing in new development stuff and they just did that to make it look nice. So those are some of the main differences. Your setbacks and the number of your density, which again goes to the affordable housing, is a lot different in a manufactured home park than it is on property. For instance, many lots you can put just one home onto, whereas they might be large enough that you can meet the requirement. You can put 2 manufactured homes onto the same amount of space. So it's kind of, it's a more economical use of space. It also accommodates the fact that manufactured homes don't usually have garages, so you don't need a 50-foot wide footprint facing the street. There might be a single wide, there might be a double wide, in which case they're anywhere from 14 to 28 foot wide, and so you don't have those attached garage issues that you need larger lots for.
And we're talking, these aren't manufactured homes, these are mobile homes? What are
So
we?
technically a mobile home is, they call it mobile home parks, they're used interchangeably, but a manufactured home is essentially the same thing as a mobile home, with the exception being the date that it was made and the authority that it was made under.
Okay.
Everything built after June 15th, 1976, as a, what would have been called prior to that, a mobile home, built under state authority, became a manufactured home and built to what's called the HUD standard for, and so that's.
Is that where you get into a metal frame for joists and all that type of
No,
stuff?
the frames were the same throughout. They all have a metal frame underneath. They've run a series of different ones. The ones that people get confused are called modulars.
Okay, yeah.
So a modular home is actually not built, it's not a manufactured, it's built to state guidelines. They're actually very rare, although a lot of real estate agents try to advertise manufactured homes as modulars. But modulars are built to state standards, not to the federal standards. They typically come on what's called a mod trailer. They can come, however, on an actual mobile home, manufactured home frame, and then it can be removed. A manufactured home can never have the frame modified or removed. So they can be very similar, it's just the standard that they're built to. But the mobile manufacturer is basically just pre-76 and post-76. And some of the design standards and safety standards changed a little bit.
Where, can you explain I guess it's the Department of License, I mean, they're considered a vehicle, or there's a term or something with that, isn't there? They're considered a vehicle, because I've personally ran into that, so I
So
mean,
the only thing that I can think of to answer the question there is their title.
there, thank
Okay,
you.
so they're not considered a vehicle. They used to have, they are considered personal property unless you do what's called a title elimination, which is when you typically would do a pit set. And most of the time, almost all the time, that's done so that people can borrow against them. If you put a new manufactured home on property, tie it down as real property, do a title elimination, you qualify for financing through a bank that you can't get through a manufactured or mobile home that's not tied down. So modulars don't come with titles. It's like a building. It's a little strange, but again, modulars are very rare. Manufactured mobile homes both have titles. They are typically in a park. They are assessed as personal property as opposed to real property.
But they, in a sense, they are mobile, like the name says. Somebody gets tired of it, you hook up to it. I mean, it's a little more involvement than that, but
It's a lot more involved, and it becomes more involved. Used to be, it was a little ordeal to move one. Not much more difficult than, say, a park model back in the day. And now if people ask for a quote, I say, if you wanna take one from that park, move it 5 miles down the road, set it up, and you use new skirting as opposed to used stuff, put on the new steps, instead as opposed to, you're looking at 30,000 for a double wide. This is about what it costs to take it down, because you've got drywall and paint and carpet stretching and trim and skirting and permits and hookups and
All the fun stuff.
a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I'm sorry. did
No,
you have-
that's what you answered. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things that I wanted to address that I've looked through on this, and I talked to Mike about the concerns of the building inspector. And a couple of things that are, I think, important, and a couple of things are something that can be worked through. The building inspector wanted a 40-pound roof load, which is a standard for here. The good news is the house that Mike has does have a 40-pound roof load, so we can get a picture of that and submit that with the
Inspector.
with the application. The Lincoln County Land Services Building Division gave him, I think that's their inspector.
Got some papers today.
Yeah. He and I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I'll just kind of go through it. This was the minimum manufactured home footing requirements. And I believe, based on this, that perhaps your inspector hasn't looked at your ordinance with regard to the mobile home park ordinance, because most of this all of this would pretty much kind of apply for putting a manufactured home on property outside of a park. A lot of these things are inapplicable to what we call a park set. But some of them, like the grading it away from the home and stuff, is standard. So what I would suggest on that is that we just set it, if this moves forward, that we set it according to the Washington State Manufactured Home Installers, I don't want to say guidelines, it's a book that thick, so probably 200 pages. It's pretty comprehensive, so, and they go through all that, but I see what he was doing there. The one other issue that I am a little, because I just visited the site for the first time. I've driven through here a number of times. I don't have the pleasure of living quite this far over, but I went to the site and I looked at it. I'm a little bit, just a tiniest bit concerned about the setback off of the highway.
Right.
He wants 30 feet from the property line. And I would suggest that it would be more appropriate to go with the existing building lines in there. So the building to the south of there is a home, and it's set significantly closer, it's a home with a porch, it's set significantly closer to the highway and the setback than the manufactured home that's already in there. The manufactured home that's already in there is set further away from the road than the shop. So if we continue that same line with that distance, we're back further than the other buildings, and it is at least 30 feet off of the pavement. It might not be 30 feet off of the right-of-way, but
Neither is anything else.
Well, which is it? The right, that's not the center of the road, not the edge, it's the edge of the road or the right of way?
well, I can show you a map of it on it.
I don't know what they want.
Well, they're sitting 30 foot from the right-of-way, which puts it
Another,
way back there. So here's the picture. This is called Land Glide. And this just shows the setback, or not the setback, but you can see here's the highway, and there's the actual width of the.
is that an official boundary that you know of, or?
It is, but it's an app, but they're probably just as accurate as any government map. So yes, they are very, very close. And you can see here, this home, that's the existing one. It's brought probably back 20 feet from the right-of-way line, but probably 50 feet or 45 feet from the edge of the pavement.
Right.
And I mean, it'd be one thing if there's a road widening project going through, but I don't know what the city's ordinances require for setback off the property line, if they have something, because, again, that was the county standards, I think. But I think that given the line of houses that, you know, they're all inside their property line, but not very far, if he was to go back to this far, this is the covered awning, it goes out almost to the edge there. But going back that far puts that line further away significantly than anybody else on that stretch, and it's well inside the property line.
So you're suggesting maybe that you just match existing from the other houses?
Not from the other houses, I would be back further than the other houses. I would say match the existing on the mobile home here, which is the furthest structure of any of these houses and buildings off the road. So it would be basically matching the maximum that's already anywhere in that area there.
Okay. Thanks. What was that app called?
It's called Land Glide.
Land Glide, okay.
It's great, tells you who owns all the properties. So you just drive down the road and see something you want to buy and then click it up. They charge you $10 a month after the first week. They get me.
But it's worth it.
It is, from time to time. So that's the one concern I had, that I would like to at least keep that option open to maybe doing a site visit if the city wanted to look at that. And again, I haven't looked at the city's ordinance as far as what their setbacks are, but I'm pretty sure that would put us at least 20 feet back from the front property line. And I'm not sure if the city has a different standard for their setback off the highways now, or if they are just off the front line.
Well, it's stated in the ordinance, one of them, I know.
I can email it to you if you want to have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it's quite that much. I think that's kind of extreme. And I don't know, the city might have theirs, but then the state, they might squeak somehow on the road. I don't know if they're going to be a problem or not.
The state generally lets the jurisdictions
Override or
well, not
control it.
override, but that's why the state has a 50-foot right-of-way. They have what they need, they don't care what the city does beyond that. And the cities and counties, and again, this is just the county one, so this might be applicable to properties in the county, but the county doesn't govern the city, so I haven't again seen what the city's requirements are.
What's your email address? I can send it to you.
It's Larry F, as in Frank Spencer, all one word, @gmail.
And just for the record, the only thing I have to say that concerns me really is the boundaries. You know, there's a city street there on the south, and then to the, well, a city street running east and west, and a city street.
That one is closed.
Do we have record of that?
Yeah. You pull up your map and it shows it.
Which one? The one?
The
that-
city map, it
No,
shows.
no, no, which street we're talking about? Olaf?
The one that goes the same direction as it goes right through the middle of that
East,
little yellow
west,
trailer.
Olaf.
Okay, that has been vacated.
Yeah.
From the edge of my property
Okay.
up there where the problem is, all the way down
Yeah,
to
that's what you're
the main street.
I'm gonna assume that is, because otherwise,
There she is, right?
you can have that 4 feet.
Anybody want the MapQuest picture of that?
And then, did you happen to notice, City, the alley? What's the status of that? Does anybody know?
That's,
You mean open or closed?
Open or closed, vacated, or
As
what? The one
far as I
that
know, it's
runs
never
south.
been closed.
What's that?
The streets on both north and south are closed, a fertilizer fence,
Yeah,
and where the little yellow mobile is sitting, those two streets are closed.
so Second, it'd be Second and Olaf, those portions are closed.
Second on the alley, I don't think so.
No,
The
Second
alley's an
Street.
alley. We're talking the streets.
Oh,
Second
no,
Street
I
is
think
not
it's
closed.
That's right, I think
That
it's.
goes
North.
and
But
and south.
it has an automatic curve when it gets to our property.
Well, on our
just-
plat, on the original plat, it shows,
It does show us a street, but there hasn't been one.
I don't know if this is what you're talking about. This.
I'm not sure if it's
alley,
gravel, it's just all been
That's
weeds.
been vacated.
Well, it
According
looks
to this, it's
pretty
owned by
good
Mike.
right now.
do we have records of that being vacated?
Not that I know of.
I don't know.
I don't know if
I
we've
don't
ever had a
Be a recorded
discussion
thing
about
because
that.
that's,
I think Doesn't it show it on those little parcel maps?
Okay.
It does, but it's never,
See, that's-
as far as I
See,
know, I've
right
never
now,
seen a road
the
there.
road is called,
It just
And the
shows
only reason why
it
you
shows
know
it
is
as a
because
street.
we've looked at
This
the
is-
maps of
this is
her, we've
north,
looked at any of
south.
these other
this is not second.
graphs.
Hold on, this is third, yeah, it would be second.
Funny, just pulled out this thing and flopped it out and you could see
Yes, this one.
which streets were open and closed.
Vacated.
Yeah.
But see, this
Yeah,
is
these
Active
things
Valley,
change
and I don't know,
Some of the records at the county, when they got digitized,
that's
they
what I don't.
didn't all digitize well, so they probably need to go into the archives and actually pull
Yeah.
that file.
Yeah, because as far as I've ever known, there's never been a street there, but when you come down from Shanks on Olaf, it just naturally curves, and right at that particular curve, there is a street sign, and it says, the second it says Olaf.
There's never been a street across my property at that point. It's just never, but,
Well,
never been put in.
but they did close it.
Blocks, and there's
I mean, it was mapped,
They're not vacated.
and that was 55 years ago.
Oh, could they go through it?
If the presentations are over, is there an action?
It's supposed to be done in 97.
I only have one concern. I will,
City-
well, I'll wait till David's done.
So, I understand that, but I just,
Where we're looking at for the building placement is actually not anywhere near those, it's up in here.
right.
That's what we're at this.
But we get into requirements like an access stuff.
We're using the alley in the front street. And you were talking about giving me the alley, so, because you didn't want to,
Well, more specifically, that was me. It was.
Yeah.
you didn't want to have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Steven wanted to give me the alley.
I just, I brought it up.
Out of the graciousness of my heart, I said I would take it. But I would really like to have a functioning alley there too. Now, the mayor went on a walk and he said it's a good alley.
Well, I just drove down it, that's all I can
Yeah,
tell you.
well, that's all it takes. It's a good alley
Yeah.
on my property.
Okay, yes,
Farther
yes,
down,
yes,
it gets a
is.
little big.
I drove through the whole thing, so I can tell you, you can make it
You
one in
went from
the other.
crashing through the weeds to nice, solid rock foundation.
So is the presentation done then at the moment?
Unless
Okay.
somebody has questions, yes.
Okay. I have only one question. David spent the whole day down here. He's gonna say he spent an hour, so he was here
He's a
more
good
like
guy.
6 hours looking. We have never found anything yet that said there was a mobile home park.
Weird.
That concerns me a little bit that we're now going to, I don't want to be part of something as was done 40 years ago that somebody and I talked and it was done. That's not the way we're doing things nowadays.
Well,
And just a second, please.
sorry.
And so now, I would just like us to prove that it is before we say it's a mobile home park. And I'm willing to take anybody who can show me any history. I haven't found it yet. Did you read any of this in 376? And this is where it says, 15-12-210, applications. Any person desiring to develop a mobile home park or enlarge an existing shall submit an application to the city clerk containing the following information: the area and dimensions of the tracts of the land, the number of locations, and the size of all motorhomes and recreational spaces and lots, the location and the width of roadways and walkways, the location of solid waste disposals, and it goes on and on and on. Have we read those? And do we think I don't know that we've seen any information. I know you presented me with this map. I
Right.
know I would love to see a layout of what the plan is.
I have one.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
that's something, so these things I think this is part of our
It
municipal
just looks
code.
different. It's the same as.
And
what
it's
Paul
not
said.
maybe, it's in there.
Right. Right.
That's the only thing I would like to see compliance
This
with.
is one for what
And other than that, I think
exists there
I'll
now.
turn it back over. Yeah, that's much better.
And it's color coded.
Yeah, Mike decided the color for you.
The blue,
And it says in here, and I hate to tell you, Mike, I'm not gonna bash you about this, but it says it needs to be to scale and drawn up, so this is a much better reference, so that helps. That's
Yeah, with the
helpful.
copy didn't take the scale.
I'm just looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
So I think that would help me say, yay, go forth with it. And
And what is it about what's there now that doesn't say mobile home park?
Well, I don't know that, that's actually like driving up in a go-kart and say, this is a Ford Ranger.
Well,
And you
except,
could say, that doesn't look like a Ford Ranger. I mean, unless you had a title or something, how would we know that? And that's may not be a very good.
I don't know how I'd have put that stuff in there if it wasn't, I guess.
Well, I don't know that, but I can't find anything in the history books that we have here.
There's gotta be something there.
So one thing that we know, whether we would find history that it has been determined to be a mobile home park in the past, or whether the council would grant that consideration at this point, either way, it would become applicable to the application necessary in that, required in that ordinance, unless we were to change the ordinance.
Would it be just as quick to put in an application and get approved for a mobile home park as to try to find?
Maybe so, I can't answer that question for you.
I think the way I'm reading this, at this point, it's virtually the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it does talk about the expansion of an existing
Right,
mobile home.
right.
That's the same rules as if I'm trying to create one.
Which we've kind of discovered that whole area there, not just this, but the whole, where the shop is and the pasture behind it, is one parcel, according to the county.
Great.
It's all one.
And if I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong in this, Joe, but the current ordinance has provisions for public hearings and et cetera, et
There's
cetera.
notifications, public hearings, there's mail to any property within 400 feet of the
application site.
property boundaries, and I mean, it's a thing, and I mean, it was written up, I notice the public hearing has to be published in the newspaper, and then it's all right there. It's a fairly comprehensive document.
Did you guys see it?
Yeah, they've got a copy
Yeah.
of it.
You guys got it?
As an alternative, and I'm just tossing this out there, as an alternative, I came into this process a little bit late, but I do have some land use history. And I've had to research a lot of things over the years, and I found that if you go down and start pulling up assessor's records, you can go back, now I don't know about Washington, I'm from Idaho, you can go back 30, 40 years and find pictures of things that are like, hey, there you go. And so as an alternative, if that's what the council is going to lean towards, are they open to the idea of being shown with additional evidence that might not be in the record presently in front of you, that it was a mobile home park and therefore is grandfathered under the ordinances at the time?
You have somebody sitting out there at 6 years old. So,
Well, it might make the application process go easier, because the current ordinance says that whether it's a new creation or the development of an existing one, the process is largely the same. But perhaps if that history would be there, it would at least provide a backdrop of precedent for the council during the vote.
The only thing I'm really interested in is protecting the city boundaries. Other than that, it's your property, and I don't want to infringe on anybody's rights, within reason. I mean,
Absolutely.
I like that
Mike and I went through
statement.
that. Yeah, he knows how I respect property rights.
No, yeah, and I think, well, I speak for myself, and I agree with David. If I had a concern, it would be probably the process of making sure that fire and safety
And
there is being
in the
observed.
future, if we did change anything, we'd still have to go through that. We're not gonna put something in that isn't working right or in compliance with what the future holds. Because, there's a lot of room down there. This is a pretty small area here.
I think what this is saying is they'd like to see the plan for the layout. So
Of
that-
the extension,
well, of
or
what- of
can
what-
we just get this off the ground right now? And then talk about an extension later?
You mean all of the units? Well, all I can tell you is what our code, did you read this part here?
I read it to him.
Yeah?
He heard it.
So without a copy of that application on file, there isn't an existing framework other than a potential tie to the term. like, it'd be one thing if you had been given a designation as a mobile home park and the application was on file, that would give you a framework to officially work within. But because we don't have anything that's been currently approved, there's nothing to work within at the moment.
What if applications didn't exist at that time? Because I have a feeling that's what happened.
Do you think it was prior to '94?
No, well, maybe. What's 18 years ago?
2000.
Yeah, it would have been in the 2000s when that happened.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
We know because we set that trailer there,
Right.
Yeah.
and a year later, my first grandson was born.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good man.
That's a good one.
So we know,
And
we know when we
he's
did it, we just
16,
don't have
So I
it.
figured 17.
I guess the mayor didn't
Because we
file
thought-
that.
We thought it was all taken care of because there was the lawyer that was involved. I don't know what the name of the lawyer
Was
was.
it a woman or? Was
Yes,
Yeah, so, okay, that kind of narrows it. It definitely was in the.
it was during
2000s.
her reign that this all happened.
That would have been 2003, 4, somewhere. I read it when she took the helm.
Yeah.
Because in her records of what went on is gonna be this trailer dispute, and then the go-ahead from the mayor.
Was it with you or your parents? It was, well,
It was
same
with
last
He was
us.
name.
talking to
with
me
us.
at the time.
Yeah, same last name.
No,
My,
it was-
my parents owned the property at that time, but he was dealing with me because I was kind of building the
Yeah.
Well, when I was searching for several things, keywords, issues, who attended it, and it was very specific on a lot of things, actually. And the only thing that come up, mobile home or RV park, and it come up 3 times in that span was that one up there. And I found it, and no, I didn't. So I just kept looking, and then it was mentioned about a lawsuit. There was attorneys, but I didn't see anything regarding your name or any of that. I mean, I would go look at it again. I'm not saying I meant.
Well, it wasn't, I don't know that it was an established lawsuit. It was just a
They just
threat
gave me a
of
letter. They gave me a
threat.
letter.
There was a letter, and of course
It was
I
an
didn't.
informative letter
Suggestion, right?
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
strong suggestion.
So.
to the tune of $100 a day.
And if I remember served it correctly, it was 2003.
When she was there.
I think. I have to double check.
Sounds about
But it was
right.
definitely in that ballpark that she come aboard from the minutes. That is.
Yeah, I'm just dumbfounded that I remember the mayor talking about so many 100 feet from, here to there was gonna be,
Where is
it seemed pretty formal at the time.
I've driven by that all my life and recently more. Where's the nearest hydrant, fire hydrant?
Across the street.
On the.
Welcome to Harrington.
Okay, it's over on there, yeah. There's nothing on the old drive-in up there by the stop?
No, there's nothing down there.
Nothing there for hydrant?
So that's the last fire hydrant I know of in Harrington. It's at the corner of the Welcome to Harrington plot there.
I don't know if the city council's aware of this, but it's my understanding that at the time that home was put in, or prior to that, one of the two, sewer and water and power pedestals were also installed, and they've been installed the entire time.
Right. So that fit that same. when that-
And they were, the one that's being used, it's been inspected and stickered. And
Were you planning on getting it surveyed to make sure that everything was,
no. It's all my property. I don't,
I know, but you're going to be dividing up the mobile homes, and I just was wondering if you're.
no, that's just square feet. That's just feet. There's no parcels. We're not gonna make parcels. Nobody's gonna own property but me.
Because I think that's the difference between having a mobile home.
That's
park
right.
And just building on the lots. That's one of the.
We're not, people aren't gonna own property there, and they're not going to, set their homes on those properties.
Okay.
This is my property, and I will be setting homes there, that belong to me. I don't know if somebody wanted to rent a space, if that would be an option or not. That's not the way I'm doing it. I'm just filling it up and renting them out. get more people into our sweet little town to pay for the sewer system. That's overdue, or past due. I don't know which way to put it.
I don't know the answer to this, but hypothetically, being that you're the owner of it, you're putting these in and then leasing or renting them out. Does that change the dynamics from mobile home park to some other, there's no interference or?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I'm just thinking of this glorious state and their rules.
It's still a mobile home park.
Yeah.
The only thing that I know that's a little weird in Washington State that makes it look strange when you do that is that if the park owns mobile home or manufactured home in the park, they are assessed together as real property. Not for title elimination purposes, but it makes it a snarled mess.
Property tax.
Well, it makes it easier for the property tax to write one bill. But it makes it really hard when somebody's trying to figure out if there's a title or not because they assess it as real property, even though it's not real property. It just makes it so you only have to write one check. But trying to figure out if there's a title or not means you have to hire a title company, and part of it's. But that's the only thing I've ever seen. But a lot of parks do have homes that are owned by the park and rented out or sold on a contract or whatever they choose to do. It's pretty much up to the park owner.
And my mother-in-law is still coming.
Well,
Jeez.
I'm not legal counsel and this is not legal advice, but the way I see it, we got three options. We can work to establish what is in place and try and work off of that as a framework, which might be challenging, but maybe with the assessor's office and stuff, as was suggested, we can find something that would be helpful. You can just put in a new application and approach it, and it just from scratch, because it sounds like even if we were to establish a framework, a lot of that would possibly be applicable anyways if there were any changes to whatever was discovered. Or three, if you're confident that you have enough precedent in what you see already done, you could approach your lawyer and see if your lawyer would advise you to be able to just execute on what you already believe to be your right. And then the city would be in the position of having to respond if they felt it necessary, which I don't think I would, but there's 4 other council members. So those are the only 3 options I see for you. But again, that is not legal advice and I am not a lawyer.
What do you think, Larry? Are we going anywhere, or?
I think there's a path forward. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. You'll have in your email the document that kind of.
So I guess if anybody has any other questions now, it's real important to utilize our guest tonight because he's been doing this for a long. It'd take us 20 years to get to where he's at if we spent every day.
I feel sorry for you for all those 20 years too.
Because there's a lot of hurdles, I get that, and this city versus county right now with the type of settings and things in a mobile home park, it doesn't, the way the county would like to have it, which you're right, that's your inspector for the city, I guess, right?
We've designated those services of
Yeah.
inspection to the county.
Okay,
I mean,
yep.
Whatever the guy, I can't remember. his
Yes,
name.
that's
Brian
true.
James.
That's true.
Right,
In a way
and-
we have, we've given
and-
those services away.
And if we have to go that route, we're not talking about economical development here. It's going to be probably almost unfeasible. So we need the city to say this is our and I don't know, do we have any examples of other cities that do it differently, or?
We have not pursued any of that sort of, you know how many people work here. And your subject has pretty well dominated this whole week,
Yeah,
believe
it's
it or not.
cool.
It is cool.
And I appreciate everybody's efforts. We
And no
really do.
soft
So it has, we haven't just been
And I
saying.
apologize for not having any ice cream.
Well,
Goodness ice cream.
the store is where I get my ice cream.
We're not
In the-
happy with
In the
store-bought
red,
ice cream
in the
anywhere,
red, in the red.
but we're getting used to it. We're getting used to it.
Yeah.
So I guess what we need to know a little bit is how are we moving forward now?
Best I could give you was the 3 options. You'll have to pick which one you want to pursue.
Or maybe a new one that we haven't heard of yet.
I mean, we could try to change our resolutions, our ordinances, but given the fact that that's not just a matter of us writing one up here, it's also would have to be vetted by our lawyer and have to determine what precedent is, because that was done a long time back. Now, if we were to kind of start over and say, how do we want to change this? There's a lot of research involved with that, and then vetting it and approving that. So that is a 4th option, I guess. We could change our ordinance, but I don't think that would advantage you time-wise.
Just as a matter of curiosity, and again, I haven't opened up my email, read the whole code yet, but is there a variance that could be granted, kind of as a stopgap measure, as it were, with regard to the building standards that are required specifically related to the frost protection? And the 5 years and newer thing, I guess, I just realized that would be an issue as well. If it's older than 5 years, it falls into, it's pretty much got to be either, it's got to be in a manufactured home park. So,
In order to get away from that.
right, I just realized that. Okay, so ignore what I,
To answer
ignore the train, ignore that train track I was at, no, that doesn't go anywhere.
We can get variances if you apply for them, as been done in the past. Depends what you're asking for.
How long does a variance process take?
Good question.
We haven't done anything
is it-
since David and I have been on council.
What time you boys get up?
But I would say this, I don't know.
Probably during a meeting, we agree to it, and whatever we agree to typed up legally, and we do it.
Well, and I think that word, typed up legally, so I would suggest that you would have your legal counsel read the ordinance, determine what portions of it you're asking for a variance on, draft a variant of that document, present it to us. We will present it to our legal counsel to see if that document is acceptable for a vote, and then we could have an up-down vote on whether we approve that variance. But I don't, in my opinion, it doesn't start with us drafting the text
And right
for
now-
your variance.
The variances that we're after,
Well, I'm just looking at the possibility of doing, going through a variance process to place the one for your mother-in-law
right,
in a park set and not meeting the requirements of being 5 years old and more. Essentially variancing it into, given that it's already in a mobile home, in an area that was previously developed for mobile home use, variance it to the mobile home park setting standards and age restrictions rather than the new one,
the private set.
the private set.
Do we have to, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do we have to follow the public hearing? Does that come into play?
I don't know. Have you got a copy of this, Larry?
I think
Or do
we
you
should
want- do you
talk
want
to
one?
Bingaman
I think I just got
and
an email.
ask him
Okay.
Usually it
let's
does.
say
Do
hypothetically,
you
just
want
for
a
the sake of the
paper copy?
argument here,
Sure.
that all of this
I will
was
give you the
fully
two.
approved
Yeah.
and it just
The
wasn't
two
filed.
rules that we
If
have
the
to go by.
council,
I will give you
Bingaman
one
could
for
tell
each.
us, could we vote as a council to say, it did happen, we lost the documents for it in years past, that would make it a mobile home park officially, then it would have a vote that would designate it as such, because we would say it's not about a new application process, it was grandfathered in at one point. That would get around the public hearing portions of it, and then we could grant the variance. Technically, I don't think we can grant a variance until we've established that they are a mobile home park,
Right,
which could only be done 2 ways of either doing that application afresh, which would take a lot of time and effort on your guys' part, or to see if our legal counsel would allow us to just assert that that was done. I don't know if that's something our legal counsel would even,
Oh, he would do it, I'm pretty sure. I've never heard of a lawyer turn down work much.
no, I'm not saying whether he would consult on the matter for us. I'm saying I don't know how
I don't
favorable
know.
he would be to the concept of just
Well,
dropping that as an assertion.
I would concur with that methodology there, or, method. Did you get any pushback from the county building inspector? What exactly did he?
Oh, he has nothing to say other than what he wants.
He
Yeah,
was just
well-
good, right?
He just says what he wants, and then,
Yeah.
and you don't see him again until you call him and say you're ready for an inspection.
The only-
But we want to make sure we're ready.
Right, the public hearing, and you've lived here all your life, you know, you go do this and then somebody could possibly raise Cain. How do we address that? Okay, I'm not saying you guys have to address it, but we'll have it, the mayor, that guy right there will hear all the flack. So what's our answer? That's park and just get on with your business. It's your private property, but as we all know, the infringement of owning property is, it's a fine line there. People
Well,
infringing on your rights.
I would say this in terms of that portion of it. I don't think we would need to take a vote on this, but I, for one, would be willing to ask the mayor on the part of the council to direct any comments towards the potential public hearing. The mayor doesn't have a vote or a say-so on whether this happens or not, so he is not the appropriate recipient of the public's comments. If there's a public hearing, they should come and talk to the people that have a vote.
Absolutely.
That would be my 2 cents on it, is to say not just that you tell the people that, but I would hope that the council would join the sentiment of saying that the council has specifically respected to get the heat for whatever comments might come from it.
The one thing that I keep coming back to, and I realize it's difficult, this reminds me years ago of something that Kootenai County came up with. When they passed a snow load ordinance, and then they decided, based on my testimony, that this is gonna hurt people that have homes here. They won't be able to move them around. So they exempted all of the homes that were in the county from having to meet the requirements. You couldn't bring one in just like it, which was a bit of a struggle. It's kind of like, well, now that's a whole nother can of worms. But the thing that got me was that Commissioner Todd Tondy, who was the commissioner overseeing the planning and building department, or the liaison to the planning and building department, managed to instruct and made it a policy that in order to get that exemption, the applicant had to prove that it was legally set in the county to begin with. Well, they were, but the county didn't still have the records. And so it became this game of, well, if you didn't keep your building occupancy permit, which we don't have, and I know it was 22 years ago, yeah, you're out of luck. And I feel that's not at all what I think the council is doing, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, just based on the evidence that I've been told about. If I was looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, the city doesn't seem to have records, but a home was put in there. It was put in there clearly not up to the standards that existed for private property. The city addressed it, according to the only person that and by the evidence of the fact that it's there, the city didn't just look the other way. And at the same time, additional investment was made to put in more homes in the future. As an evidence-based situation, I would look at that and say, well, the city doesn't have a record saying it did or didn't happen, but the fact that the city clearly knew about it, it wasn't to the same standards as the residential stuff, but they allowed it. even after sending out a letter saying, initially saying, oh, we're gonna find you have to move this, and then all of a sudden that went away, and additional infrastructure was put in, would give a lot of credence, in my opinion, to the idea that what Mike has as his memory was accurate, even though the city doesn't seem to have a record of it. Because I personally, as a homeowner or landowner, I wouldn't put in a bunch of, I would
spent
spend
some money
thousands
down
of
there.
dollars putting in infrastructure for something the city says I can't have. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I agree with you, and that's why I said it would be worth consulting our legal counsel to see if that's something where we can make an assertion that it is grandfathered in. And I would also agree that it does lend a high degree of credence that it is what Mike says it is. It's really not that I think that it's below majority doubt in that. The question, I think, is if we assert that it is, just how far, just what exactly are we asserting was already approved? How far does that go? Because without that, any type of a paperwork, because this doesn't just include what was done and the example you said of what is physically there. It's also talking about the plans and the allowances for what has not yet been done. And so the question is, where does it stop? Or do you get just kind of a blank check to say, well, the city screwed up, they lost their paperwork, so you get to develop the first iteration of this however you envisioned it to have been in the first place?
Which is pretty evident.
Yeah.
With what's there,
Yeah, I'm just saying from the responsibilities that we have towards the city in terms of making sure that everyone had the ability to speak to it in public hearing and everything, it's just a question of just how far do we go in allowing that first iteration to not have the checks and balances that the ordinance was designed to put in place. And I say that from a position I think is pretty favorable to what you're doing. It's just a question of getting our ducks in a row to make sure that,
Well, we certainly don't want it to be happening again.
yeah.
So, in your opinion, what's your next move?
Yeah.
I'm kind of digging right now, but what's your next move? Toward getting this thing,
The quickest thing for you probably would be for us to contact Bingaman and see if he can inform us as to whether the council can, by vote, assert that this has been in the past considered an RV park. Without any,
Mobile home
Yeah.
or
park.
mobile home park, sorry, yes.
Can I add a little bit of a helpful idea on that? If Mike were to write up a narrative, this is what happened, this is how many spaces we developed it for, we would agree that any future development beyond these, was it 5?
Four.
4, beyond the 4
That's what your plan is for.
that
Four.
Yeah, so that any development beyond the 4 initial hookups that were created in 17 years or whatever ago
the early 2000s.
would be under the ordinance as an expansion,
Right.
because
Yeah.
there would be additional hookups, development of roads, all the other things which are addressed. I think that all of the hookups are pretty much along the street, aren't they?
They're kind of diagonal across the middle, but
Right.
yeah.
No, I think it'd be helpful to have something in writing to be voting on with that.
I wanna look at
And
this.
that's a part of that.
Yeah, you guys, I
But
don't need
I
that.
think specifically what we're looking for is to see if council would advise us to be
Now,
able to
just
find
so
it.
you know, the blue is not a swimming pool. I chose blue, I don't know why, it looks like swimming pool.
To find ways around the public hearing and the mailing notices and all the other parts of the application process that will inherently take time. And that would be the question of, can we assert that requirement was met back then? And so that would not make the assertion, that would just be our council saying you could do this if you wanted to. The council would then need to vote on that, which would give you the framework for having it be an RV park, and then you can write your variance and get that approved. That is from where I sit, that is the quickest path to
And
be
it's a
able.
mobile home park.
Yeah, I'm
RV
sorry.
is different.
Mobile home park, yes.
I can't even
Saying
get
it wrong.
motorhome and mobile home
Yeah.
separated in my head.
My apologies.
He wouldn't need a variance at that point if you go that process, would he? At that point, you
Well,
would
you would
just say,
still need a variant, if I'm understanding this correctly, you still need the variance in order to meet with the county requirements that you're not, in terms of winterization, you mentioned, and
no, that only applies to, according to what I've read briefly in the code, that applies to individual properties. It doesn't apply to mobile home park. The reason I was looking at the possibility of a variance there was, okay, if we set aside the argument that it's a mobile home park,
okay.
it's got an individual lot, so we get a
So
variance.
in other
around
words,
it.
in your discussions with the inspector,
Property.
if it was considered in a mobile home park, he would not have any concerns with anything you're planning to do.
I think he would, but I don't think he's read the ordinance about the mobile home
But he
parks.
gets his
That's-
mother-in-law in here.
I think that he looked at the ordinance for developing site built, because your mobile home park ordinance.
You don't see concrete slabs in mobile home parks.
Right.
It's just too expensive and,
That's only if they're gonna put in and you're gonna try and get financing for it. Because there's only a few banks that'll finance mobile homes if they're not on a slab.
new ones.
Yes,
New
that's
ones,
right.
yeah. If it's new, different ballgame.
Okay,
Yep.
so you might not need the variance. My only thought with the variance is that if you would
Don't
need
disagree.
to get aligned with the inspector, you might need something there to finish the job with it. But if he's already satisfied under the context of a mobile home park, then you might not need one.
To me, saying that it's a mobile home park means something.
Does it? Are you questioning?
No, I think it does.
I think it does, yeah.
I think it does. It's not just a hunk of property now, it's a mobile home park,
as-
which
as
probably
Larry-
gives you rights
Excuse me.
or gives you,
As Larry pointed out to me, I mean, he set hundreds of mobile homes in Washington State, and it's very, very, very rare that anybody pours slabs and footings in a mobile home park. It just isn't done.
I don't think we're worried about the slabs and the footings.
The inspector is,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
so,
They wanted 32 inches of frost protection,
Really?
and which is applicable if you're putting it on private property, but not in a mobile home park. That's what I was,
that's
I've
where
never
maybe the
seen that in,
Ah,
every city, even Davenport, the closest city,
yep.
they have a mobile home park, they have park set mobile homes
This is
in the
what it-
park.
They
This is-
have.
But
This
it's
is from,
on a
Yeah,
private
Ryan James.
property,
Ryan
you have to do a
James.
pit set backfill foundation.
And the 5-year rule.
I
Yeah.
don't know, no, I don't think the county has the 5-year rule.
It's as long as it's newer than 1975, he said.
That's all they care
76.
about.
That's the county. Davenport, I don't know, I think Davenport's is, I have to tell you, I always wondered when I looked at that, when the Attorney General or a person is gonna challenge that, because I'm pretty sure that won't hold up.
This
A
is
lot
for
of cities
somebody
say brand new, and I don't think
on
it'll
a
hold
lot.
up.
This is for somebody putting one down by the river or something.
Well, I think
Yes,
so too.
on private property, it's
yeah.
the same. He's calling it the same, and everywhere else
Well-
it's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he may just not know, I don't know.
I could talk, I'll talk to
Yeah.
him. I'll
Yeah.
talk to the
Yeah, I
inspector
understand
and just
that,
work
but I
through
think
that
that,
process.
I don't know that that's for a park. I can't answer that question.
Yeah, and that's why,
Is that considered a double?
that's why I got Larry
Yeah.
Benton.
Yeah, I'll talk to the inspector and then
27
I'll
by
help
40,
Mike develop a narrative, and if
and
the
that's
city council
just
will
about what
then,
mine was, but I would
if
never
the
put
city
a deck in
council will,
my
inst-
yard.
if the city council will move to instruct the mayor, and this is just a suggestion, to take the narrative to the attorney and see if the attorney will agree that the city council has legal authority to do the process that has been described, then we'll get on that and
Donna, have you been getting any of this? Well, it's all recorded. We can go back and,
It's just the key portion of it is,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be about a new application. It would be asserting, the council asserting that
That
this
this is-
was an approved.
Yeah.
it's just an expansion of an
that
existing.
narrative
But it's
is-
not
what it
even an
says right here.
expansion, this is within the bounds of the original.
And that
Well, I don't think
narrative
they
would be
mean that. They
the
mean just
only
adding
remaining
new
representation of
units.
that
Yeah,
original intent.
that's why they're calling the area and dimension, what's it's called here. This is not a brand new. This would be a submit application to the clerk. Any person developing a mobile home park or enlarging an existing park. Well, it would be enlarging it. You would be
I wonder if they're
putting more
talking about the units in the park
Putting more
or
units
more
in.
space.
Because the argument, Jess, is that this was in the original plan that was approved back when.
Okay.
Now,
Just the 4 spaces.
Again,
Yeah.
to be clear about what would happen in the next time we have the opportunity to vote, setting this in place to get to the point of the council having something to vote on is different than how we vote when we get there. This is just about establishing that we have a narrative and that the legal counsel would say it is valid for you to possibly do this. Then the council would have to weigh whether they believe it meets the qualifications for actually putting that in place.
And we're under the impression, because of Larry's experience, that to do it any other way than what a mobile home park normally does would be very rare and intense.
It would be cost prohibitive in most cases.
So in other words, if you go to the county land commissioner here and he says, no, you're gonna put in a slab or you're not gonna put it in, you're probably not gonna put them in then.
That's not as many.
Yeah.
I might do it for my mother-in-law, but,
You mean you
you know,
Might
I,
have to.
You're on
it would
camera,
probably
so-
stop then.
It's
you say
okay,
that
he says
again?
it to her face too.
Remember, you're on record.
Well, I get along with my mother-in-law just fine.
Yeah, she loves him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I'm comfortable with the inspector just because, like I said, I can show him that there's not another city in Washington State that makes parks put in frost foundations. They just don't. It's understood that they're set on the ground. Washington State has standards for it. You follow those and.
So we got a path forward here pretty much right at the moment. We're gonna call Bingaman and provide him with some information.
You won't have the narrative in hand at that point in time because it'll be yet to be written. And in some ways, I don't think that's the pertinent part of it. It's really just asking him, could we as a council say that whatever they produce is what the original intent of the application that we believe they received back when was?
I affirm.
Yeah, it's just affirming that. And it's not the first time that the council has had to deal with documentation that has been misplaced. So affirming absent documentation, this is not.
It's a daily basis.
So without the exception of a special meeting, Mike, and going to our lawyer, providing
Right.
that he's around, are you willing to set this aside for another 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
That's what we're looking at now.
Well, we gotta do what we gotta do,
We
but,
are right now on the 22nd.
and I
so
appreciate
the
everybody's,
Next city council meeting would be April 12th. We are right now.
are we
here on-
voiding our agreement or is that okay? We'll do that. Larry's got mobile homes sitting there on rented property that he would like to move.
I understand that.
Sometimes it snows. 'Cause it's
Sometimes it
Tuesday
snows.
and
And it's
March.
supposed to snow soon.
It is.
Yes, Friday.
And there are different things that we call snow.
So my only concern is that we have the information that we can pass along to our lawyer tomorrow. Very good.
And if anybody needs a walkthrough or a look-see,
Already
You know.
been there, done that.
it's all fine. We'll be very cooperative.
Okay?
But there is water, sewer, and electric set up there right now, waiting for new people to move to Harrington.
Thank you.
Everybody happy with what we did here tonight?
Yeah.
Larry?
Thank you.
That was.
The length of it
Virginia?
was great.
What?
The length of it was great.
You thought it was gonna be longer?
Well, last week it was 4 hours.
Was it?
Yeah.
No,
we had
no, it was only like an hour.
We were
and a half.
here for 4 hours.
We were here till
We
11
were
o'clock.
there,
But it was an hour and a half with you here.
Well,
And that's
um,
not-
on our mind.
Now,
We'll find a yes and then there won't be any more.
do I understand that you're all getting paid for that?
No, there's no pay.
Well, I mean, they're volunteers.
Yeah, pretty much.
So be kind to us.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your generous support. Okay,
Okay, Mike, thank you.
Thank you, Larry, Mike, and
Larry?
we'll see you guys soon.
Okay.
you bet.
I was I left it back there.
Get my pretty picture.
Take your picture.
And without being disruptive, if I can get an application, that will depend on whether I'm able to do these community service gardens anyway. Because that means I would be staying.
You have to stay because you're helping out at the food bank. You have to stay because you're helping out at the food bank.
Okay.
That's in that second drawer, Donna.
You have a key.
So no, I've got a key. You're trying to exit the building here, Greg? Is that correct? Is that what I'm gathering?
Well, yes, as long as that's not.
The next thing we're going to discuss is approval of the minutes. Has everybody had time to look at those?
Yes, I'll second it.
Let me grab something for this.
This should be a little
man
less
here who wants
painful.
to-
I've already pointed it out to Donna. There is a correction.
On the minutes?
Yeah, so I'll just say it verbally so everyone can know what I'm correcting. When we brought back the library board 242 issue, it was just a typo that she put the motion passed 401 with Councilman Schenk abstaining, and it was me. So she's probably corrected already, but just for what was presented to us, that would be different.
Actually, I didn't catch this earlier when I went through, but now that I'm looking at that section again, something stands out to me. So in the action portion of it, the motion to amend resolution 234, 2033.
Get this into it.
It'd be 2023. And then I think, wasn't the numbers different in that the 2023 one was 242 or 240?
Yes, 240 something.
240 something. It's the 2022 one that's 234.
Correct.
Oh, yeah,
And
it's
then-
backwards.
242, 2023.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I think all the recording of what happened was substantially correct. It's just those little numbers stuff, so.
Yeah, so we amended 234 with 242.
Yes. Technically, we replaced it.
Truth.
Yeah, we didn't actually amend it. Yeah, we didn't amend it, we replaced it.
So did I hear we had a motion on the floor for the minutes?
Yes. Moved in second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion carries to accept the minutes, 5-0. Thank you. The next one is to approve the claims. If we could get a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
Seconded. No, those are the ones we did last week, David,
Well, they are.
or last time. Yeah, those are, the reason she's got it crossed off is because.
I thought they looked familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
it's just the different format. This shows that the checks were actually written.
Query on Hobart Service DW repair.
You'd like to know what it is? That is the dish sanitizer. It's not a dishwasher in the memorial hall.
Hobart, yeah, okay.
That thing was been broken and out of service, so it was repaired and put back into good operating service again.
On the Visa bill, did we get dinged another $39?
No, we did not.
Okay.
And that's gonna get hand delivered. It'll be signed in the morning. Checks were made last night. It'll be signed in the morning and hand delivered.
Got it.
Only other comment I put in there is that hopefully, because Donna was awesome and beating people into submission regarding getting the name changes on things at CenturyLink. This will be our last full CenturyLink bill. Hopefully.
Wonderful, that's good news. Further discussion? No?
I am good.
All in favor of the motion to pass the claims as provided, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? 5-0. Wonderful, council. You have a set of, a check register there, which has already been done and sent out. These were asked to be given to you so you could observe them and see them after they work. That's why you have that. And we need to sign those before we go tonight too.
Sign the check register or sign the claims that we just approved?
Both. The check register is nothing more than for you to observe what was done.
Right.
Here's,
Crossed off to make sure
you
that that's
approved
the
all
one
of
we
these
signed,
when
yeah.
they were in the claim portion, and strictly for an observation. Next thing on the list is TD&H. And TD&H has provided us with an addendum 1. And they would like to ask for a little more money for the job.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Which job?
That would be the emergency repair job.
They're just looking to take a little bit more money out of the grant funds. The thing I really appreciated, thank you to Steve Marsh, is that he already answered the question he might have known that I was going to ask, which is how much was left over. I think that was 142 grand. So
121.
121. Okay.
121,
So
213 is left.
I have no problem with it.
With that, was that to finish up, to tidy up the last little bit here?
And their design services, right?
Yeah, their design services, and they came up with some things that they thought they shorted themselves on a little bit throughout the process. And you know the rest. Here's the rest right here.
Okay.
It's not something that we didn't have money for, and he's also working for a phone call we had today to see if we can possibly utilize some of this 121,000 that's left over here towards fixing our little wetlands between 4th and 5th.
On Willis Street?
On Willis Street, and
Not just a fix, but a
a full-blown replace it, and 4 new meters, 5 or 4?
No, he
Oh,
was
it's
saying
4 houses.
He said the 5 meters would be part of the water system plan, so he didn't want to get excited about trying to do that replacement at the same time.
Well, actually, it'll all be done at one thing. The line, they'll have to put a new line in, but
Yeah.
at any rate, he made an estimate this morning that it could be as low as in the mid-60s, and I thought, that's unbelievable, but
Do we have any other streets we can
no, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I said, gracious, will you sign to that now? No, he said that was shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
And I thought it took that much just to get the equipment here, but
Well, that'd be
at any
great.
rate, that sounded much better than we had been thinking, and
If we can use that pot to go a little bit further, that would be wonderful.
we're going to entertain and have a meeting with Mark Renfro from the state to see if that's a possibility, so all of those things are in the works. Any further discussion? So it's been moved and seconded that we say yes to this amendment for Steve Marsh and TD&H. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? 5-0. Very good. Next thing on the list is our amendment to Resolution 242, 2023. So, last week we amended that resolution.
Replace.
We replaced.
We replaced it, excuse me, yeah?
It functions as an amendment.
And
but-
according to our lawyer, you all have the information that he said. So it seems to me that we need to erase a couple letters, and I'm asking for counsel here. Have you thought about what we need to change that to make it correct? You know, our lawyer said here, the mayor appoints and then the council confirms.
Everyone's looking my direction.
Well, I'm reading his letter right now, and he had issues with copy-paste RCWs and put them in the resolution. I think, Joe, we understand that, we both agreed. And he recommends, if, the question is then asked as to what purpose does the resolution serve? Well, my goal in presenting that was to copy the prior resolution as a kind of a blueprint, a working procedure of what to do to aid the library and council or mayor in this position. But as I understand resolutions, they're mainly an internal policy. They're less permanent. They're more of a working guideline procedure within the embodiment of this council and the city. But his recommendation is if it does not serve a specific purpose, he would consider repealing it. So honestly, do we even need it according to that? Because it's everything in here pretty much was RCW.
So if we repeal it,
it's gone.
We would be back in the state before your motion last meeting.
You just, you wouldn't have a resolution.
Oh, yes, it would go back to the one that this replaced.
Yeah. Which would not be, which I'm not really opposed to, because I was arguing last meeting that I thought that allowed us to do what we needed to do. But to be clear, it was not prescriptive as to how the names were acquired. If that is now something the entire council is comfortable with, we can go back there.
Well, the only argument I would have on that is that where he states, because it's RCW, we copied and pasted them, which, well, I didn't have a problem with it, but
No, I think I understand where he's coming from is because the RCW could be changed and then our resolution is
null and void.
well, it stays in the same place.
Yeah.
So if ours was more fluid to flex with the RCW as it moved and went through the world.
The pertinent part that we actually changed was not from the RCW. It was not copy and paste.
Correct.
There might have been other parts of the document pre-existing that he didn't get a chance to see previously that were copy and pasted, but
I
just to note, our ordinances as a whole, I'm sure that if we paid him to go through all of our ordinances and see where the problems are, we would have a never-ending source of leaks.
I had the opportunity to chime in and talk to him a minute on this, and when I said what I wanted to do, and when it said the library board will give recommendations, forward them to the mayor, he said he was okay with that. The problem was the language that we just passed in there took away the power of the mayor and the council. In other words, library picks their person, you must install them. And
Well,
that was the big rub that he had with that, so.
I don't know what he said to you verbally, but the email that Jess forwarded from him, I understand, and I could find the wording of exactly what he said here, but I interpreted what he said to be that the main thing that we couldn't do was to take away the mayor's prerogative.
His power.
Which makes sense because what we vote in as an ordinance as a council, the mayor doesn't have a vote on, so we took the mayor's the mayor's ability away in doing that. So I can back that part of it out, but he did. But
I think he meant resolution instead of ordinance.
But Bingaman did say that or the wording in here implied to me that the
Do you want a written copy?
making the council's consent obligatory was not
Two
necessarily the
paragraphs at the
problem.
bottom page on the front is what he said. Very front page.
was this one? Okay. Arguably speaking, the town council could rubber stamp an appointment. However, the town council cannot remove the mayor's statutory authority. So I could support a change that would no longer make the mayor's consent obligatory, but I would not support a change that would make the council's support of the library board's recommendation anything less than obligatory.
Stephen, read that one that's come from Bingham or attorney.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just watching, what Jess just handed me.
I don't see rubber stamped in that one.
It's down further in the commentary. Here, I'll put it to the top of the screen here. Now to the top of the screen. Same email, just scrolling down further.
I guess the question is, the RCW, the copy pasting, the RCWs, and the specific parts of the RCWs that are in there that contradict the mayor's powers. So what else is in there that, I mean, do you need, according to this, I'm getting you don't even need a resolution, because we already have RCWs with the guidance, the rules that govern all this. My goal was just to, I'll go back to the original one, it gave a kind of an internal working. It didn't say the mayor, it didn't take away the mayor or council's authority.
234, 2022?
96, 94.
Oh, that goes all the way back.
Yeah, that gave that paragraph in there, which I tried to get into this 232.
So if you remove the, sorry, I
No,
interrupted.
you're fine, but it was a guidance issue. And for not only us here, but future people, or boards and councilmen and mayors. And that they'll know what to do. Now, does it say they'll have to? Didn't it say the mayor must choose from what the library says? It just says you'll give recommendations. Well, common sense, probably most of the mayors, just guessing, will do that anyways, but not necessarily.
Well, so if we remove the resolution entirely, we become less prescriptive in terms of like section 7 determines how often the library board must meet. And then there's things that I also believe are not in the RCWs about their specific authority to purchase books. So if all you have is the RCW, you become less prescriptive. Is that the same as restriction? No, but I thought kind of the whole goal of why we went where we went last meeting was to be more prescriptive. So getting rid of the resolution altogether.
Thank you.
If the library board has a desire to not do anything that hasn't been prescribed, then if we remove the resolution entirely, they'll be doing a lot less than they were before. Because the RCW is only like a couple paragraphs, and while, yeah, we hit on a lot of that in the resolution, there are a lot of things that you would look at that resolution and go, well, yeah, no duh, library board does that, but the RCWs don't actually say that the library board does those things.
Well, the way I read it too, this whole situation, is that a resolution can't replace an ordinance and so forth and so on. And yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, sorry. Oh, just being, sorry, now, being as a code city, that does give us a little bit of latitude to create our own process or procedures, as long as it doesn't interfere and step on ordinance, RCWs. And I guess I would pose a question to council. Well, can we pick this thing apart and take out whatever we need for procedures, put it in there and leave it in there, as long as it doesn't take out power of anybody, with our mayor or council? Your thoughts?
My thought is, if we can skip ahead for just 1 second, is there a recommendation for the open position coming tonight?
Yes.
Yes, he has it.
Okay. So really, regardless of the old one or the new one, we're probably in a position where that part of it's gonna go forward
Yeah.
and be cleaned up tonight. So this doesn't necessarily have to be corrected right now. So what if,
None of it's against the law. We don't have to correct this ever.
right,
Well, technically, I think Bingham's point was, in my interpretation of that email, was that you might want to think about not removing the council's power, which I disagree with, but I would agree with his assessment that we can't remove your authority and discretion in the matter. So we probably do have to change it because it's probably not quite legal, but assuming you do whatever you do tonight with consent of knowing that the lawyer has told you that you have the ability to not be obligatory, the RCW still reigns. So we can do whatever we need to tonight, and we can get our resolution cleaned up later.
you know, what I was basically gonna offer is that instead of just ash canning this and having to change that and then come back and redo something again, is maybe just
Yeah.
table this as a non-action item. We can go back to rewriting it, passing it around. Everyone has their 2 cents worth on what they want to see. Make sure it's where everyone's comfortable for everybody. And then have one more amending resolution and we're done.
Is that a motion to table?
That's my logic behind it, so if you want a motion to table, that would be a motion to table this until let's just put it on the calendar,
Next regular meeting?
next regular meeting.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second to table the amendment to 242, 2023 until April 12th, I believe it is.
Oh, wow, it's a delayed one.
Yeah, because next week is the 5th.
Right, right.
Yep, the 12th.
April the 12th. We got a second too?
Yes.
Did I hear? Any further discussion? All in favor of tabling the motion until April 12th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Good news. That's good. I have all three of those in writing if you'd like them. Okay, next thing on the agenda tonight is to approve the recommendation from the library of a person to replace the person who resigned. And that's been given to me by the library, and so I'd like to recommend that we approve Lynn McGowan as the replacement for the person who resigned from the library board.
And for the record, that's position.
For the record,
Position 4?
that, I can't tell you, I don't think it said that on there.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? We have a motion to accept Lynn McGowan as the replacement for the recent person who vacated the library board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same? 5-0. Thank you. Is there any library report tonight?
We hired a librarian.
Good.
Yay.
She starts Tuesday.
Who is that?
Nice.
Justina Slider.
Okay.
She's from Davenport. She was the assistant librarian there. She's completely trained.
What was her name?
Justina.
Justina?
Justina. Slider, Sliter. So it will jumpstart the process
Yeah.
in here 5 months.
She's already
cool.
spun up on Coho and some of the
She's
programs.
completely trained.
Nice.
Wonderful.
We will give her some extra hours.
Do you? Do you still need that grant for training then?
Well, the grant wasn't for training, it was, the grant had
I was joking.
somebody in there,
Yeah.
but
I said the
that
same
pretty
thing.
much takes care of the fees for the co-op.
Yeah.
That $2,000 and.
Cool.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is a treasurer report, and I don't see our treasurer here, so we're gonna move on to mayor's comments. I think I told you all already, and did everybody get the list of things that were talked about today at the water meeting, our Wednesday water meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I got
Okay. I don't know, I think I already brought that up to you, that Cynthia Wall's gonna talk to Mark Renfro, who is the head of the committee who gave us the $750,000 to do our pipe, and see if there's not money there available. So before that happens, we had Steve Marsh call J.R. Massey, who actually came out today. Was John Massey came out and walked the site, he and I and a couple of his other guys, and he looked at it, and so they should have an informal bid to us here by the end of the week, hopefully. So
Nice.
maybe we'll have a number for the Public Works Board and Mark Renfro in that group by the end of the week, and we can tell them some things. And possibly, according to Steve, he thought that that could be in a mid-$60,000 to $70,000 job, which
That's amazing.
if that turns out to be true, what a treat. That's like
Well, they don't
dollars.
even have to touch pavement there, right? Because
It's
all
in the right
ground.
of way.
Yeah.
John Massey thought that possibly the hydrants last, he said 30 to 50 years. Well, our hydrant is 47 years old. So I told him, hydrant's probably not gonna make or break the whole project, but it looks like most likely if we were gonna dig this up and put in a new pipe, we probably need to replace the hydrant right now. And he said some of them are rebuildable, so you may be able to get a rebuild kit, and the actual big cast iron housing might be just fine. Maybe it just needs a rebuild kit. And he thought it's only placed about 1.5 feet from the water main. All of these hydrants you see around town are not hooked into the water main going down the street. The water main goes down the street, and then the hydrant's stubbed off about 6 to 8 feet away.
That makes sense.
So when you open a hydrant, you're just opening a little piece of pipe off the main line. It's not part of the main line because it's extremely hard, I guess, with a pressure transmission.
Yeah.
Which is why they separate it from the main line. At any rate, it sounded to me to be unbelievable if that's all it cost us. So, I shouldn't say all it cost us, that's still a lot of money, but the cost of everything nowadays, I expected that to be much higher. The only problems they saw is they would have to put the line in first, a new line, hook it up to the hydrants and pressure test it, then go back and put the saddles on that go to each house, and then put the meters in. So they would approve this thing first before they ever took the whole line out that's there. Get the brand new line in and then shut them down for probably 2 days, which we'd have to run hoses to them or something to keep them going. And then put new meters in. So maybe a 2-3 week job
Okay.
total. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to take us down a rabbit trail here, but on fire hydrants, David, do you remember what time of year they used to open all those
Spring.
up? It was in the spring.
Flush all the hydrants?
Yeah. Do you think we could talk to the fire department and see
Of course.
if they would do it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
So
been.
you're willing to make that
flush.
call then?
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it was the fire department that did it for you?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, it was the
Or was it the city that used to do
Public
it?
Works. It was, well, at that time it was Wally Bramer and George Green. They were we like Troy and the helper, they did it. They'd open them up and
I could still hit up somebody from the fire department and see if
Run
they
all
wanted
of
to give it a
When
hand.
I was a
Just the
firefighter,
rocks
we
and
did it for
crap
the
out of
city.
them.
And they flow tested
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
special screens, so when the rocks come out of the line, that are going 100 miles an hour.
Exactly.
You have a special tool that captures all of those things that are in your water lines, believe it or not.
Well, I think on Willett Street, how many patches they've done?
Well,
It's a
the
whole
picture
patch.
that I gave everybody has 7 patches in one section, and it's solid. And there was a spot about this wide, and we went over there to look at that today. It had rainwater in it, so you couldn't see it. But there is no more spaces. That was put on last week. So there's
I
a, it's,
think theoretically, the hydrant is a couple houses down. Every time a patch was opened up, that should have been open and flushed that line.
To the hydrant, you
oh, it
mean?
does flush.
Yeah.
Well, it flushes whatever. I can show you the picture of those guys in there with the water going everywhere.
Right, but,
But yeah, they used to open up the hydrant and blow it out after they did repairs like that.
yeah.
Well,
Back
they
in the
never
day.
closed the hydrant. It was never turned off when they go in there. They're down in there with the water
Okay.
going all over, putting a band around
Did you
it.
see?
Yeah, it was a geyser
That's
going
awful.
up, and Troy was in there sitting in water
Yeah.
up to about here.
This is a spot he's saying that now there's another.
But yeah, I'll head up to the
Abstract.
fire department this
Well-
week and see if we could get them to help. And schedule a day and just have them come out and do it.
Well, I don't even know if well, that'd be good, whoever's gonna do it, but I know back then it was,
Right. No, I was just thinking the scene is how the fire department are the ones that are going to be using them if the emergency ever arises, that it might be good for them to
I
be
think
there.
it's, actually, if they
push
check
off
their
on
policy, I think it's even policy that they exercise them so often.
Right.
spring, fall.
And it's been how long since?
Oh,
Decades?
Mount St. Helens, a lot of them got used in
Okay.
1980, I know.
I remember flushing them when I lived down on
You said 1880.
I said 1980.
3rd Street.
I said 1880?
And that was-
So we gotta
Happen to be there, they could probably use it
Hell,
to.
It might have.
But yeah, I'll hit them up for that and see what they say.
We got a bill from the Department of Ecology this week about some grants that we had for sewer from 1976. And believe it or not, grants do come to an end. I think one of them has got 6,000 and one of them has
Oh, jeez.
3,500 left on it.
That we can use?
No, this is money we
Darn
owe.
it.
But,
These are loans, not grants then.
well, this was grant money that, yes, there were loans, yes.
Oh, okay, I see.
And I had never heard of them. So Donna says, do I pay these? So I got out all the information and of all of the grants that we had gotten and loans that we'd gotten, and I couldn't find anything about this. We got to digging through. These are paid twice a year. So we found the checks from last year where they were paid, but they're paid with these, well, they're paid without a check or anything else. They are a fund transfer or an
Okay.
ACH,
Oh, right.
an account. So none of you knew anything about those. You don't see those when they're done, which you will now because Donna's, anything that's done with an electronic transfer, she puts in here and you'll see how some of these things are
Okay.
done. So you'll see it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
About how much do we have total that's coming out to
Oh,
pay these?
$2,500 or something is the payment we're gonna make in May, it seems to me.
And that'll clean it up or just,
No, then this is going on for another 2.5 years, so,
From 1976.
yeah.
did you have an idea what it was for?
Yeah, it was for sewer,
So, okay. so-
with one of the ponds for wastewater treatment.
So does that mean that we're not only still paying off the last sewer redo, but we're paying off things from the sewer system before that?
That doesn't even
correct.
exist now.
And the one that we paid off the previous, right now,
It's government, man.
we still owed close to $1 million.
Right, no,
Okay.
I know that.
And we're
I know
refinancing that, it hasn't been done, and we're gonna lose like 300,000 in interest alone.
Right,
So
Right.
that's gonna cut that debt just about in half, and that's just about to be finalized here. And then the sewer plant we're using right now, we've gotten enough money to totally cover the replacement of that. So one of those ponds is going away.
Yeah.
So our newest plan, which hasn't happened and won't go out to bid until January next year, that sewer system will be paid for. So we're only gonna be paying for the one that was done
Right.
15, 18 years ago.
It'd be nice to only be paying for the last iteration of the sewer, not too back.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that.
Like a
but
steaming pile of.
That's,
Yep.
You're right.
so we made some accomplishments, believe it or not.
Good.
But still, Donna spends a good share of her day filling out reports for things that we know nothing about, for grants that we got 4 or 5 years ago. So if anybody tells you that they can get free money, it's
Laughing in
costing
their
you
face.
every day to fill out paperwork. We're gonna have to bust in here and find out about our COVID money here soon,
Right.
before we lose it, and find out if we can use that COVID money.
Infrastructure,
Well,
you
we
can.
can use it. We used, I think, 58,000 this year.
We're gonna get another.
Did we not get that reimbursed out of the
No, they
emergency
wouldn't
grant?
do that because we did that work. We put the above ground line in before the state and the tribes and the fishery and everybody
so-
weighed in, so they said, you can't dig. If you've dug there, you're in violation of
So if
something.
we use 58,000 of that, there isn't a lot left then.
Well, I think there was
There's two payments.
two payments we got, and I think they were like 78,000 each one of them.
Well, 58 something change each
So
one.
Yeah, I'm
we
forgetting- yeah, I forgot the second one.
So there could still be another $70,000 or $80,000, and we need to get after that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's almost
It's the end of the
that's
calendar
almost
year.
an FTE's job
Yeah.
to figure out what you can and can't do with the money you got.
Well, I know that the county went through a lot of discussions about that already. I'm still doing a dance to set up some time with Scott. And another thing I was going to talk about, but I guess Janice has had surgery, so she's out. So I'm working on setting up some discussions with Scott for something else. But while we're talking with Scott, I know they already did a lot of detective work, and Rob Kaufman did some detective work about just what they could spend the county's COVID money on. So they,
Probably the same.
right, so they can probably give us either some names to talk to, or they can give us some general guidelines of the legwork they've already done.
I believe that's all spelled out in that Social Security Act
Probably is.
thing, and infrastructure was one of them.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only one. That's about the only one that would fit our needs.
I wasn't sure if we could use it on meters. Meters is going to be, as Steve brought up today at our water meeting, meters is a big job. It's not just meters. When you start replacing the meters,
It's lines.
all of the lines and everything that you're going to, typically, he said you replace meters when you replace water lines. Because you got a bunch of old meters that are hooked up with old pipes and old fittings.
Stuff starts to crumble.
And everything you touch is gonna start falling apart when you, so.
Well, I think when we start doing that too, I think council, the city's gonna have to decide where are we gonna place these meters, because this is ridiculous. Somebody has to go in somebody's basement, you know, and all this.
They don't go in the basement. Mine has a little placard on the outside of the house, and they just touch it with a pin. And it's, the meter's in my basement, which is heated, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's protected. It's in a heated environment.
But if you didn't pay your bill, where would they shut it off?
Well,
That's
you probably shut it off at the same place that you'd shut it off if it was outside. We don't shut off water for bills that are
Well, I just get back to what happened. You and I went on that call in transition between the Public Works leaving. There was a situation because the meter was on their property, and just looking ahead to avoid that situation. Where are we going to put them? On the which side of the sidewalk? Just where? And they should be standardized.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was
Going
this
forward.
one you and I went on.
Yes, exactly.
That was the bike. Stephen, you are going to talk or look into online credit cards. Have you had a chance to do any of that?
I haven't come to the conclusions yet. I've looked into some of it, but I haven't come to my recommendation yet on it.
Okay. Was somebody going to check Wheatland? Was there a person going to go to Wheatland and
I didn't.
do a,
What do we exactly want to know?
Yeah.
I thought we had talked about
Right.
that at our meeting, and that we were gonna go to Wheatland and just see what kind of recommendations they had for banking operations for us. We were looking at all of our options.
I think, did we determine that they don't afford us the same credit card usage? I think that was.
Well, we
the
could
big-
go with the third-party credit card
Right.
stuff, but I guess I didn't have any open questions, and that if we do go with a third-party credit card provider with things for the virtual credit cards, that I don't have any doubts as to Wheatland's ability to service the rest of our banking needs. So,
Do you want me to go visit with them and see what programs they have and make sure that it's municipal approved and blah, 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 blah?
Sure.
I will do so and report to the council
Okay.
and the mayor.
I'll be more excited about it.
There's been several questions asked me, many questions asked me lately. A couple of them I don't have to deal with now, because you passed some things tonight that we don't even have to talk about those anymore. You may see bonfires and marshmallows being roasted over the next couple days.
Where?
And we won't have to have any public lynchings, though. Here in Harrington and in outlying homes around here. It's been asked to me, I don't know if anybody,
He's referring to our decision to try to do things ourselves with the cemetery was extremely unpopular with
Okay.
certain.
I don't know. Yeah, it was not
All I
welcome.
gotta say to those people, just remember the donations every year.
Yeah. I heard a great deal of positive thinking about looking seriously at how the endowment is being handled at the present moment.
Exactly.
Because I told many of these people, you have to understand, at some point the city cannot afford to mow lawn anymore. It's gonna come to that point.
Or have it contracted out, you mean, right?
Yes, they all agreed, and I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna go mow it, so we need to pay somebody. But there's gonna come a time when we can't afford it. We're gonna have to spend our money on the living.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
I think we're at that
I don't
threshold
mean that
now.
disrespectfully. So, and they said, well, why don't you take some of that money out? And I said, we cannot. But maybe that money needs to be taken out of where it is so that it can produce enough to support the cemetery so we don't have to as a city.
And the good news is, I'm sure that many of these people that have these concerns were willing to say that I'll be on a cemetery committee in order to volunteer my time, right?
I'm going to poke hard at that.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have any problem with that because they're not afraid at all to approach me or call me at home or grab me when I'm at the truck and auto buying a part for my old truck.
well, I had a few people approach me in the post and office, but I'll say this. I am grateful that the people who came and talked to me because I know there were a lot of people who would much rather have just griped about it and not actually come and heard our side of the story with it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
thank you to those that at least
They did understand. I
engaged.
told them that, we cannot sustain this. This is unsustainable.
Yes, it is.
We're not the only ones faced with the
No, all you gotta do is go fill your car with gas.
They're pulling their contracts right and left and doing it themselves again.
So that's a good thing. There's been talk about vehicles parked the wrong way on streets. I don't know if any of you have seen that. Pretty regular around here that people pull up and park the wrong way. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of trucks being driven on our streets that are poor at best. There's one across the street from me on my house, and I live on one of the worst streets in town, at least as far as the way the street condition is. And it comes and parks in front of this house loaded. So
Right on the water line.
I don't know, I haven't had time, I've been looking at mobile home things for the last week or so. Probably 2 weeks now, that's what's been going on.
Maybe we
But
could
that's
address
something
some
we
of
need
that.
to look, if, anybody's got anything on that. And the next thing is we probably need to start dealing with farm animals and some other things too. As I've told people who are complaining about one of the trucks, if you look just on the sidewalk past the truck, you're gonna find 3 farm animals. You just can't ignore one thing, and, everybody will have their own personal complaint.
Well, doesn't that, in a more general sense, come back to the question of our CEO?
Yeah, pretty soon he wouldn't have any time for anything else if he was gonna start dealing with all these items.
Yeah.
But,
Is that something you want to put on for a workshop, just a discussion? All these issues you're bringing up?
so our workshop, do you think we need to have a workshop next Wednesday?
I wouldn't mind one myself.
Okay.
If everybody-
It should be a little easier, it sounds to me.
Uh-huh.
Now that,
I'd go 7.
okay,
But that's
O'clock.
just me.
Fine.
so
And
we'll
it's a
plan for a
workshop.
workshop.
We could put a we're done date. I'm gonna have to keep it open. We could say it's 7 to 9, that's it.
Yeah. We could hold it across the street.
Hold up
Okay.
the school where you guys were.
Bring it
So,
on.
public
Mind the
comments.
company. Seeing as how I wasn't here for the additions to the agenda, can I ask a question in the public comments?
Of course.
Okay. I have been receiving multiple inquiries about this, so I promised these people that I would ask about Dean's Disaster across from the school.
Well, Dean's Disasters had one vehicle moved.
Good.
And my last thing that I heard about it was there was a couple more of them gone. Is
Good.
that not true? You're there more up.
I know that there are 2 more that have appeared, and one of them is up on blocks right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll,
So I will let these people know that some of them have gone away.
yeah,
And been replaced.
I'm not going to say that. They can figure that out for themselves.
there's supposed to be, he has access now to some farmland somewhere.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, wrecking yard land,
Yikes.
or will be.
The boneyard. Okay.
Yeah, that's an ongoing,
Okay.
that's almost a living, breathing system. It
I get asked
changes.
about that every day, and my answer is I will go ask the council. That's if you have no answer, that's fine. At least I will have asked. So
The crux of that, there's other properties that are becoming that way too.
yeah,
And I personally think a lot of stuff, as the mayor mentioned, people parking the wrong way, that never flew before. And it's just sloppiness in a city. It's a disrespectful for one, and basically illegal. If a state patrolman comes.
oh, it is illegal. They could ticket
Yeah.
somebody for that.
So I just, would urge anybody listening, the citizens, it's just, we want to live in a peaceful, prosperous community.
Yeah,
And it's going to take all of us to do our part. And if we don't, I mean, like I said, we're getting out of hand with some stuff for whatever reason. So if push come to shove, they're going to force our hand, and we'll have to go to the next level, get tough with it, and the cops called or whatever. Just be respectful of your neighbors in
Yeah.
the city.
That's all I had.
burning is going again. It's posted on the window out here.
Cool.
Weekends only,
Okay.
unless you're the golf course.
They're a law unto themselves.
Unless you have a big enough fire, then it would appear you can start it
If it's
whenever.
on the golf course, that's technically
No,
in the city limits. Yep.
And it is outside the city limits, isn't it?
So is our cemetery.
Yes, it is.
Suggesting a bonfire there.
Just saying.
Cremation.
Yes.
And after we agreed to pay for the trees too.
Oh, well. The last thing on
This
the
is fun.
agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned at 9:08. Wow, that was actually pretty good.
Not bad.
And most everything got taken care of.